had an idea for like a video that I could do to kind of, again, give people more perspective. I have already said about the Steven Crowder Daily Wire, all that stuff. There's nothing else that I can really add to that conversation that's going to be of use about like that specific event. However, what sprung from it, I think is a topic worth discussing for the sake of this video, because it applies to virtually everything it is that we are doing, not just at the Rippaverse, but also everything that I advocate as an individual with the parallel economy. Okay. And what I specifically want to talk about and discuss is independence. Okay. And if you guys saw my post on Twitter, I discussed a little bit of this and how, you know, a lot of people actually, let's just do this. Let's just do this. Let me just, for the sake of conversation, go ahead and go to the actual comment and we will just read what it is that it says. Hold on just a second. So this is what I said. I said, everybody thinks doing indie shit is easy until they have to do it. I say this from experience with the Rippaverse. The time, effort, and resources it takes to circumvent the status quo and establish channels is more difficult than you could possibly conceptualize. I mean that sincerely, or I meant that sincerely. Whatever ways you envision it's gonna go, maybe a quarter of it goes according to plan, or a quarter of the plans go accordingly. This is why it's so annoying, and it is, when people tell you just go do this type shit. Most onlookers are completely out of their wit and have no idea. I'll expand on that. I embarked on this, or I went on this journey, right? Creating a universe. Took me a couple of years to do really everything as far as like, okay, getting in contact with the lawyers, making sure the foundation is laid, making the book, getting the prints, hiring staff, warehouse, logistics, all this sort of stuff, and figuring that out. Okay. But in order to kind of position myself to even be a part of that conversation, you know, this is a long process of me using some of the previous arts that I was involved in as kind of way to leverage that, right? So, you know, I used to do the boogie videos. Those turned into, you know, I was like 17 years old doing that stuff. That turned into vocal covers. Vocal covers turned into being a playmaker in this metalcore scene, which turned into commentary, continuing to do the music stuff, commentary, comic book stuff. You know, I was just always building as I opened myself up to the audience. So it allowed me to put myself in a position to have the following to make a lot of this happen initially. So it wasn't something that started really 2 years ago. It's more so started even like when I was a teenager. Okay. You can't possibly understand. So when people say go independent, do it yourself, all that sort of stuff, you could not possibly conceptualize what it takes to do that. It seems easy. It's not. And this is why I don't even like really using the term independent, because often that means not connected to like a bigger business or a bigger corporation. They're all incorporated, but you know, get a bigger like business is what it means. Like you say, like Dark Horse or Image or these other companies say independent, and you say major indies, and it's like really they cycle the same talent, they go through the same distribution channels. What does that mean? So when I think independence, and I'll define it for the sake of this video as I mean it, I look at independence as something that, you know, you are doing things your own way, maintaining as much possible ownership of your product as you possibly can. So it doesn't matter really what the industry is. That's the way I look at it, more or less. And I guess depending on how much you are relying on yourself is going to determine whether or not you are independent. But it is not one of these things, even if you have the resources, it's not one of those things that happens overnight. Out of this previous conversation, like I was talking about at the beginning of the video, it's just funny. Everybody's like, you know, hey, just go do it. You know, do it yourself. Do it this way. Change your business plan. Make it happen. Make it do this way. It's like, yeah, okay, how about you do it? You know, that, which is my message to really everybody. That's the ball players out in, whether it be with the two entities that are arguing with each other. If it's so easy and everybody got it figured out, then just do it. But that's because ain't nobody got it figured out. You know, with the previous conversation, you're talking about like businesses pertaining to networks, video content, articles, that type of stuff, right? You're trying to build an empire. That's an animal in itself. Now, I'm more so on like comic book stuff, distribution, aspect, publishing. That's where I'm at with my business. Doesn't matter what it is you're doing. It is not easy to do it. And just because you even have the resources don't mean that you can pull it off. Because trust me, and I know anybody that's ever saw like mass success. It's one thing that, hey, I'm going to sell 100 copies or something. I'm talking about like mass success, shipping hella units, dealing with millions of dollars. Okay. Once you start dealing with that, I'm willing to bet everybody understands that has done that. Pretty much you had a plan together. That thing got scrapped or had to be altered almost immediately because that's the way that it is. And you also don't know what you don't know. You have to experience. Anybody can warn you against all this other stuff, and then their experience is not going to be identical to yours. It's not that difficult, or not that easy. But the difficult part is you have like definitely in like how kind of the American economy is set up. It's a lot of people going through like these established channels. Some of them have been existing for longer than you or I have been alive. And people go through that. That's the motions and all that. So if you are going to circumvent that, well, you are dealing with a whole heap of other problems that you just can't possibly prepare yourself for, right? I decided to be hard-headed and take on my own distribution. That is a different business from publishing. And this is why the vast majorities of publishers do not do their own distribution. It is another business in itself. It has its own set of logistics that if you just haven't done that, and it's different, right? It scales, right? If you're talking about 100 to 500 packages or 0 to 500 packages, it's different from dealing with 60,000 packages. And that's different from dealing with, I don't know, hundreds of thousands. To the million, the scale just changes. And the amount of money that you got to put up to make all of that connect and just operate, you can't conceptualize it if you haven't experienced it. I'm telling you that from experience. We still figure it out. People have been doing this for definitely with the growth of technology. Everybody's still figuring it out. So if you trying to do like commentary stuff, that's a whole other thing. Everybody talks about like, hey, I talk about all the time, parallel economy. The easy part is identifying it, and the easiest part is being a customer. Because a customer, it requires nothing of you to like withhold your focus on something or your dollars from spending money on something that, let's say, was the status quo or the establishment. That's the easy part, right? That's the easiest thing to do. The other part is coming up with the alternative, and not just the idea. It's like putting the idea to something that's going to materialize. That's a completely different animal. Not everybody's built for it. Not everybody can do it. So we like to think, hey, just do it yourself. Hey, maybe that's not your calling. Maybe your calling is to help someone else that's doing it for themselves or trying to keep it. Everybody has their place. But it's not easy. If it was easy, then everybody be doing it. We wouldn't be griping and moaning about tech issues, big tech. If it was just as easy, let's just go do it. It ain't. This is why I want people to be supportive of the alternatives if they're good, not just being an alternative. Being an alternative ain't good enough, right? You need to be good at what it is you're doing. And that's the part that's difficult. It's being a competitor in an industry that everything is against you. The odds are certainly against you. And definitely if you're not going to go through the established channels that has already been there, the infrastructure that's already been there, you can't possibly conceptualize how difficult that's going to be. It's just the amount of money you have to spend. And it ain't just resources, right? It's execution of just plans. So this is why you have people that have a lot of money, enter into a certain business, and that business fails, right? Because it's not just about resources. Resources is part of it, right? But how you get those resources and execution of a plan that you may have paid to have materialized or attempt to, that's a completely different thing, man. And it's not easy. And I want people to understand that when you go and say, well, just do it, or you think that it's easy, it's not, right? It's funny. We were talking about this whole conversation before. Everybody's talking about like transferring of like subscribers, paid customers. and trying to get them to go to another platform. Trust me, when you've done it, you know how difficult that is. Right? I remember when I had my Patreon and I took my Patreon off of I built it on ericdjuly.com. Right? You think I had 100% conversion rate? No. Nobody has that. Nobody has a 50%, right? I have 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. Did every one of them buy the book? Not even close. Because that's not how it works. The conversion rate is not going to. People will move where they want to move. And sometimes it ain't over there. And you got to rebuild. It's not that. This is why, like, hey, it's an alternative video platform, right? And people think that it's overnight. Oh, it's there. Just go do that. It's not. It doesn't work like that. Definitely when you got like a power player like YouTube in the mix that we're all on right now. You're looking at the video from probably there. It ain't that easy. Even though I'm on all my stuff's on Odyssey, right? It doesn't matter. There's more work to be done. And this is why the execution is everything, man. And it's going to take a lot of time. I'm white-pilled as anybody you know, right? I get excited. I get stoked. When I see someone that tries to do something else and they don't go through not just you get a lot of, it's like that with the comic business, right? Company will exist, like I said, with they cycling through the same damn talent and their distribution is the exact same. Everything's basically aligned, right? It's like you ain't really doing anything different. You're not like advancing the economics of this particular industry. You're not doing anything different, right? That's way easier, I say, than coming up with your own thing and truly, because that's what it takes, right? If you're gonna truly have some level of like true independence, that's what it's gonna take. It's gonna take a lot of resources, execution, a plan, and you have to do a lot of work. As a business owner, definitely as an business owner, this ain't my first business, but as an owner of the Rippaverse, sole owner of the Rippaverse, I've worked more than I ever had doing anything in my entire life, despite me being an owner of a multi-million-dollar business. It's not easy, guys. And I just want for you guys that maybe are on the outside looking in and you think you got the answers. That's not to say that you don't offer anything of contribution that's useful, because a lot of you may. But trust me, it is not as easy as just do independent thing, see success, and that's it. Profit, everybody's fat. That's not how it works, dude. If it was, everybody would already be doing it. Hell, the arguments from the previous videos and what I was talking about at the beginning of the video, if it was that easy, we wouldn't even, this whole conversation doesn't exist, because everybody that actually knows that is far more difficult than what it actually is said to be. This is why everybody got their spin on it, and some agree, some disagree, and that's y'all's business. That's the cool thing about a competitive parallel economy, is that everybody gets to see what works, what doesn't, at least for them. And maybe you take from that, you can implement it in your own plan. If it worked, bam. If it's something that you can do and you can do it better, awesome, great. If it's some level of failure and you see what not to do and you digest that, awesome. That's what it's about. But it's going to take a lot of trial. It's going to take a lot of error. It's going to take a lot of resources. It's going to take a lot of failures, successes is what it's going to take. But I'm telling you, just if you're on the outside looking in, do not trick yourself into thinking person has following, person has money, they can do the independent thing and it's just going to happen. All they got to do is give it a shot. People are going to go support. I would love for it to be that easy, but it's not. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.